Standing at the heart of our towns and cities, for hundreds of years, our rich history of house building has quietly come to say a lot about who we are and where we live.
It talks about our national identity. It says things about what we're good at and what are meaningful to us.
Homes where space and light mattered, still highly sought after centuries later. Compare and contrast that to what we see today. With a chronic shortage of accommodation, Britain is in a race to build, with row upon row of cut and paste designs constructed by a handful of volume house builders.
Anonymous boxes, relentless. I think the sort of copybook that we see so often now of the same thing just being rolled out across the country is really damaging.
By the mid-2020s, the government wants to be building 300,000 homes a year, which is why we're seeing a lot more of this. And if you ask people how they feel about it...
They all seem very uniform. They're not particularly exciting to look at, I think, the new developments.
I've got a 17-year-old who's terrified of whether he'll ever be able to afford, after uni, to live where he's been brought up.
I'm not sure they take into consideration the infrastructure. It just seems to be housing estate after housing estate.
Those who aren't fans are often accused of NIMBYism. But do they have a point?
Is what we're building something which we can be proud of in the same way we look back at Victorian era or even, Edwardian era?
Mark Southgate is a chartered town planner with over 30 years' experience.
I really did assume that every single development would have to, in some way, have included an architect.
There will have been some architecture in the design to start off with, but once they've got a standard house type, then actually they're just repeating that house type. I mean, we talk about look and feel of a place. It is something about feel. Is how does it feel? Does it feel sort of, and often lots of emotive words, does it feel safe, comfortable?
It feels like there's a lot of homes here. Should we have a quick look?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Valley of the Bins.
People need bins, people need to put those bins somewhere, but to actually put them in what is the focal point between the properties, it's almost creating barriers.
Then there's the tarmac that runs right up to your front door.
There's no space out the front at all, really, is there?
It's a bit soulless is the word I'd use. It feels a bit, it just doesn't feel like it's just not as good as it could have been. Now, one of the problems with our housing model is for a lot of the developers, they build, they sell, they have no long-term interest, and therefore they aren't interested in that long-term bit.
Of course, if you're a first-time buyer, you're probably just grateful to be on the property ladder. And they're not bad, but many don't come close to matching the quality or ambition of Britain's great tradition of home building.
The quality of our housing really is not nearly good enough. Much of it shouldn't be built at all. Of that which is built, at least half needs really substantial improvements.
But the Home Builders Federation, which represents private developers in England and Wales, says its members shouldn't be criticised for things like road design or access to bin storage, as that's in the hands of the local highway authorities. And it says if there's a level of standardisation in what we're seeing, it's to keep supply chain costs down for customers, and builds are always of a standard quality and design that builders know customers want to live in. Then there are the new homes coming on the market that aren't built from scratch. In Croydon, you'll find quite a lot of these, office blocks turned into flats. Frequently falling far short of national space standards, these tiny homes don't even need planning permission.
It's a strange shape. It was an NatWest Bank, I think it was their sort of logo. The developer's done the minimum amount possible, really, to convert it into residential use, so it still looks like an office building. It's still got these tinted windows that you can't open, that don't offer very much natural light.
Developers have been allowed to convert offices into residential properties ever since 2013, when changes to permitted development rules were introduced to cut down on red tape.
In some of the interviews we conducted, people were describing them as slums of the future, and I think that's quite a reasonable description.
Of more than 240,000 homes that were finished between 2018 and 19, 12% came through change of use conversions.
One of the good arguments for planning control is that the market sometimes fails. And when you leave things entirely to the whim of the market, sometimes you'll get good quality developments, but in a majority of cases you won't, if people think it's profitable to do a poor quality design.
So what was here was a sort of classic 1960s development.
There are still some pockets of brilliance on the developments where a little more thought is put in.
You can see by the different building heights that we've really tried to integrate it.
Architect and government design advisor Sadie Morgan says it's not necessarily about spending more.
I don't believe good design costs extra, and in the end I think that the benefits, the wider benefits that it brings to society, we can't underestimate the importance of improving people's quality of life.
I think developers and developing companies have deep pockets, and they have top-notch barristers that can really sort of bully and push through on what they want, but actually we as architects have to help everyone resist that.
The Royal Institute of British Architects tried to give a platform to what works. Brentford Lock West development has won numerous awards for its intelligent design, incorporating old canal architecture. But developments like these are the exception to the rule.
It's very clearly demonstrated that those companies have used and played the need for housing as a reason to not ask them to build to higher environmental standards, which we think is terrible, and they should really be held to account. It doesn't cost that much more.
There should be an ethical responsibility on our house builders to be coming up with designs that stand the test of time. Homes we feel proud of, places we want to stay.
It's not so much about whether or not you like the look of that new development down the road, but whether or not enough thought has gone into how it affects the local community, so that those who move in feel pulled up by their surroundings rather than dragged down.
If we want future generations to look back and admire what we've built in the same way we do the Victorians, the Edwardians, the Georgians, then design really matters, because what we're building now is a legacy we all have to live with. Katie Spencer, Sky News.